Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Chapter 1. Getting Down the Rabbit Hole. Alice and her sister sit under a tree on a very sunny day. Alice's sister reads a book, but Alice does not. There is nothing to do for Alice, so she gets bored. She has a look over her sister's book for a few times, but she is not interested in it, because there are no pictures and dialogues in it. She does not like it. What is the use of a book without pictures and dialogues, she thinks. It isn't beautiful. She wants to do different things, but cannot find anything. The weather is very hot. The sun shines, and Alice's eyes begin to close. She feels sleepy. Oh, I am bored. I shall pick up some daisies, and then I can make a daisy chain. She begins to collect daisies. At that moment, she sees a white rabbit with pink eyes. The white rabbit with pink eyes talks to itself. I am too late. I am too late. A talking rabbit is not usual, but Alice is not surprised at first. After that, the rabbit looks at its watch and walks fast. She stands up and begins to follow it. A talking rabbit is very interesting, she thinks. She runs after the rabbit, and the rabbit goes through a big rabbit hole. Alice does the same thing. She jumps into the hole. The rabbit hole is like a tunnel. Alice tries to look at and understand where she is going to fall. But she cannot see it, because it is very, very dark. She falls down, down, and down. There is no end. She begins to get bored. At that time, she notices that there are shelves on the right side of the tunnel. There are jars on the shelves. She takes one of the jars and looks at it. There is writing on it. Orange marmalade. Alice feels very happy because she is hungry. I think I can eat this orange marmalade. There is nobody around, and so I do not have to ask anybody for this. She opens the jar, and she becomes disappointed because the jar is empty, so she puts it back on the shelf. Alice is really tired of getting down. She still does not arrive at a place. How many miles do I fall down? She asks herself. She is a very clever student at school. Her lessons are very good. She answers her question. Nearly 4,000 miles. I think I am near the center of the world. While falling down, Alice thinks about her cat. Its name is Dina. She talks to herself. Oh, my dear Dina, what will I do without you? I want you to be near me. I will miss you so much. And what will you do without me, Dina? What will you do, my dear? How can you drink your milk? You cannot take your milk from the fridge and drink it by yourself. You need help. But I cannot help you, because I am far away from you. Oh, Dina, take care of yourself, and please don't forget me. I will miss you. I will miss you very much. She falls down for a long time, and at last she arrives at the ground. The falling down is over. There is a pain in her leg, because when she falls to the ground, she crashes her leg. She stands up. Then she looks for the white rabbit, but she cannot find it, because everywhere is very dark. She says to herself, Oh, I cannot see anything. I am like a blind person. Alice looks carefully and sees the white rabbit. It is there, and it says, Oh, I am very late. Alice goes after the white rabbit. The rabbit walks very fast. It is very difficult for Alice to catch it, The rabbit runs and turns a corner. Alice turns too. But she cannot see the white rabbit. It goes. Alice finds herself in a big and dark room, and the white rabbit is not there. There are a lot of doors around the room. She wants to get out of that big and dark room, but she cannot, because the doors are locked. She feels sad because she cannot open the doors. But at that time, she notices a small table in the middle of the room. It is made of glass and it has 3 legs. There is nothing on it except a golden key. Alice thinks that the key on the glass table can open one of the doors in the room. She takes the key and tries to open the doors, but she cannot. The key is very small for some doors, and it is very big for the other doors in the room. Alice sits down and thinks, "Oh, what will I do? The key doesn't open the doors. I don't want to stay here," she says to herself. She stands up and begins to walk in the room. Then she notices a new door behind the curtain. "Oh, I didn't see the door at first, because everywhere is dark." She takes the key and opens the door. There is a very beautiful and colorful garden. There are different kinds of flowers in the garden. The butterflies are flying and the birds are singing songs. She wants to go there, but she cannot, because she is too big to pass the door. She is sad. "Oh, I am very unlucky. There is a very nice garden outside, but I can't go there because I'm too big. I want to be smaller," she talks to herself. She is very tired of looking at the beautiful garden. She locks the door and puts the key on the glass table again. Then she sees a very little bottle. "There was not a bottle on the table before, I am sure. I did not see it," she talks to herself. She holds the bottle in her hand. There is a writing on it, "Drink me," in large letters. However, Alice is a very careful girl. "I should not drink it. It can be poisonous. First, I will check the bottle." She controls the bottle and thinks it is not harmful. She drinks a little and likes its taste. The taste is like a mixture of birthday cake, chocolate, banana, and apple. "Oh, delicious! I like it very much. I can drink the rest of it," she says, and she drinks the whole bottle. "What a strange feeling!" shouts Alice after she drinks the bottle. "I think I am getting smaller and smaller." 2 minutes later, Alice is only 30 centimeters high. She becomes very, very small, but she is very happy. "Now I am smaller than before. I can pass through that small door and I can go inside of that beautiful and colorful garden." She walks fast to the door and tries to open it. But she remembers that she has locked it and has put the golden key on the glass table. She runs to the glass table to take the key, but she cannot. This time she is too short to reach the table and take the key. She feels very sad because she really wants to get in that beautiful garden. She jumps to take the key, but she is not able to. Then she tries to climb to the glass table. She holds one of the legs of the table tightly and begins to climb. She climbs a little but falls down. Then she tries again. But she is too short to climb, so she cannot. She falls down again and again. She feels very miserable and sits down on the floor. Then she starts to talk to herself. "No, Alice, don't cry. Nothing happens when you cry. Think something to take that key. Think, Alice, think." At that moment, she notices a glass box under the table. She runs and takes it. When she opens it, she finds a small cake. There is a writing on it, "Eat me," in large letters. Alice looks at the cake and thinks, I will eat this cake and it will make me taller or shorter. If I get taller, I can take the key from the glass table. If I get shorter, I can go under the door and reach that beautiful garden. I can go inside the garden in both ways. It will be good for me. I will eat the cake. She eats a little of the cake and begins to wait. What will happen? What will happen? She asks herself. She waits, 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 but nothing happens. It's very normal that nothing happens. When people eat cakes, strange things do not happen, thinks she. But Alice wants to be shorter or taller. She feels upset. I hope I will get shorter or taller. It's very boring to wait here, she says. Then she continues to eat the cake. Soon she finishes it. Chapter 2. The Pool of Alice's Tears. Curiouser and curiouser, shouts Alice. She is so surprised and annoyed that she cannot speak English well. She understands that she becomes taller and bigger. Oh, I think I will be as big as this room and will cover everywhere if I get bigger than this, she thinks. She is very huge. She tries to look at her feet, but she cannot see. She is so tall that she is not able to see her own feet. Oh, I get so big that I cannot see my feet. Now, who will put on my shoes? I think I will have to write a letter to communicate with them, thinks she. Then she says, I am very stupid and talk nonsense things. Alice's head hits the room's ceiling, and she understands that she is nearly 3.5 meters high. She takes the golden key from the glass table and goes back to the garden door. She has got the key, but it doesn't mean anything. Now it is impossible for her to go inside that beautiful garden. She lies on the floor and looks at the garden with one eye. Her head is very big, so big that it cannot go through the door. She feels herself awful. She is very big and tall. She doesn't know what to do. She begins to cry. She cries, cries, and cries. You should be ashamed of yourself. Why are you crying? Stop, stop, don't cry, Alice says to herself. But it does not work. Alice goes on crying. Her tears drop down from her eyes just like a river. She cries so much that there becomes a great pool of her tears on the floor. Suddenly, she hears something and stops crying. She listens to the voice. Oh, the Duchess! Oh, the Duchess! I am very sorry. I am very late. She is waiting for me. Oh dear, what will I do? I am very late. Alice remembers it when she sees. It is the White Rabbit. It walks fastly along the room. When it comes near Alice, she decides to ask it for help because she feels very hopeless. She thinks, maybe White Rabbit can help me. And she says to White Rabbit, Oh, dear Rabbit, can you please? But the White Rabbit does not listen to her. It continues to walk straightly. It carries white gloves on one hand and a large fan on the other hand. While walking along the room, it drops the gloves and the fan. Then it disappears. Alice cannot do anything. The White Rabbit goes away, but she stays there. She looks at the ground. She sees the gloves and fan there. She takes them from the floor. Then she looks at the way the rabbit goes. The room is very hot. She begins to fan herself. Then she says to herself, Oh, everything is very weird today. Yesterday, everything was normal. What happened? Did something happen at yesterday night that changed everything? Oh, I don't know. I feel myself very strange. Did I change? Am I a different person now? If I am different, then who am I? Oh, I cannot solve it. It is like a puzzle. Alice is very miserable, and she feels lonely. There is nobody to help her. Then she realizes that she wears the gloves of White Rabbit. Oh, I don't remember that I put them on. When did I wear them? She asks herself. Alice feels herself strange again. She feels her body is changing. Oh, I think I am getting smaller, says she. She looks around and sees that the things are bigger than before. Then she understands that she is less than 1 meter high and she is getting smaller. Alice is very afraid. She does not know what to do. Oh dear, I have to stop it or I will be as small as an insect. But how can I stop it? She asks herself. At that time, she notices that she carries the fan in her hand and understands that it causes her getting smaller. Then she drops it and stops getting smaller. Everything becomes worse and worse. I am in a very bad position. I am very small. I have never become as small as now. Nothing can be worse as this, says she. When she finishes her sentence, her foot slips and she falls into the salty water. At first, Alice thinks that it is a sea. Then she realizes that this salty water is the pool of her tears. She is very surprised and cannot believe it. Oh, I cried too much when I was big, she thinks. Alice begins to swim in the pool of her tears. She tries to find a way out, but the pool is very large. She says to herself, "It is very bad that I have to swim in the pool of my tears." At that time, she sees something near her. It also swims. At first, Alice thinks that it is a very big animal, but then she remembers that she is very small. She looks at the animal carefully and understands that it is only a mouse. "I shall speak to the mouse," she says. I know that it is not normal to speak to mice, but everything is very strange today. If this mouse talks, it will not be surprising, she thinks. She swims toward the mouse. When she comes near it, she asks a question. "Oh, dear mouse, do you know the way to go out of the pool? Can you show me, please?" She doesn't know how to speak. The mouse does not answer her question. Alice thinks, maybe this mouse doesn't know speaking English. That's because it doesn't answer my question. She decides to ask a question in French. The mouse may be from France and it can answer Alice's question. The question is, where is my cat? This is the first sentence in Alice's French lesson book. When the mouse hears Alice's question, it jumps up and looks at her angrily. It is frightened when it hears the word cat. It begins to swim far from Alice. Alice understands her mistake. "Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't want to frighten you. You don't like cats, I think," she says to the mouse. "Of course I don't like cats. I hate them. Do you think I love them?" the mouse asks. "Oh no, I don't think so," says Alice. "But if you know my little cat Dina, you will like it. It is very pretty. I like playing with it. It is very good at catching mice." The poor mouse is frightened again and begins to swim quickly. "I am very sorry. I don't want to hurt you. Dina is not here. He cannot catch you. Do not be frightened," Alice says to the mouse. "Please don't talk about cats. I hate cats and don't want to hear anything about them," the mouse says. "Of course I don't," Alice says, and they continue to swim. Then Alice sees some other animals in the pool. They swim, swim, but cannot find the way out. Alice, the mouse, and the other animals at last find the right way to get out of the pool and begin to swim to that way. They all get out of the pool. They are wet and they want to dry themselves. After they dry themselves, they play a game. They ask questions to each other and answer them. At the end of the game, Alice gives them bonbons and they eat them. Chapter 3. Alice's Plans. Soon Alice gets bored and leaves there. She walks a little and thinks what to do. She is alone again. Then she hears a sound. She looks at the way that the sound comes from. It is the white rabbit. It looks for something and says, oh, my Duchess, she will cut my head off. I am sure she will kill me. Yes, she will really kill me. Where are those gloves? I cannot find them. Oh, where did I drop them?" Alice understands that the white rabbit looks for the gloves and she wants to help it. But she also cannot find the gloves because everything changes its place in the pool of her tears. Then the white rabbit sees Alice and says to her, "What are you doing here? Go and take my gloves from the house. Hurry up, Marianne, hurry up." Alice does not understand anything. "I am not Marianne. It thinks I am somebody else. Anyway, I will go to that house and bring those gloves. I will help it," she thinks. She goes out of that room, walks for a short time, and then sees a house. There is a writing in front of the house. W. Rabbit. "Oh, I think it is the white rabbit's house. I will get in and take the gloves," she says to herself. She passes the door and gets in the room. She walks for some time and looks for the gloves. Then she sees a small table in the middle of the room. The gloves are on it. She takes them from the table and turns back to get out of the house. But then she sees that there is a bottle on the table. There is no writing, "Drink me," on it, but Alice thinks, "Everything is very strange today. I am sure something will happen when I drink this bottle. Maybe I will be taller. I really get bored of being small." She drinks it. After drinking, she gets taller, taller, and taller. She becomes so big that the room is very small for her. She cannot stand in the room. She has to sit down and put her arm out of the room's window. At that moment, the white rabbit comes to the house and begins to shout, "Marianne, Marianne, where are my gloves? I want you to bring my gloves. Where are they?" Then it tries to open the door of the house, but it cannot, because Alice sits behind the door. When the rabbit cannot open the door, it shouts at Alice, "Go out of the room, go out of the room." But Alice cannot go out. She cannot move because she is very big. The white rabbit begins to throw little stones into the house. It thinks that Alice will go out when the stones hit her. The stones hit Alice's face first. After a few stones hit her face, she understands that the stones turn into cakes. She eats one of those cakes, and she again gets very small. As soon as she gets small, she escapes from the house. On the way, she thinks, "Now I have got two plans. First one is that I will grow to my normal size. The second one is that I will find that beautiful and colorful garden." Then she walks away. Chapter 4. Alice eats the magic mushroom. Alice always thinks about that beautiful garden. She remembers the colorful flowers, the pretty butterflies, and the singing birds. "How can I get there?" she asks herself. "I think I have to look for that beautiful garden." She begins to walk around and look for the garden. Suddenly, she sees a mushroom. It looks like a very big mushroom, but it isn't. Alice is very small, and she thinks that the mushroom is big. She goes near it and realizes that a caterpillar is sitting on the mushroom. It smokes a pipe. How interesting it is, Alice thinks. She soon sees that a caterpillar is smoking for the first time. Soon, the caterpillar stops smoking its pipe and looks at Alice. Then it talks to her. It talks in a sleepy voice. "Who are you?" it asks. "I don't know who I am, sir. When I got up this morning, I knew myself, but during the whole day I changed many times. I became small or big. I think I am not the same person. I am different." Alice answers in a polite way. "I don't understand you. What do you mean? Tell me, who are you?" asks the caterpillar again. "How can I tell you myself? I do not know who I am. I think I am not myself, because I am always changing," answers Alice. The caterpillar again does not understand anything. It looks at Alice. Alice tries to explain herself to the caterpillar again. It's not very easy to tell. Alice tries to speak in a very kind way, but she gets tired of telling the same thing. "When I drink something, I get smaller. I become as small as a mouse. Then I eat a cake and become huge as a house. I become so big that I cannot stand in the house. So I have to sit down and put my arm out of the window. Normal people don't change like me. They are always at the same size. But I change. I am very strange." "You," says the caterpillar. "Who are you?" Its voice is not friendly. They go back to the beginning of their conversation. "Why do you ask me the same question? I tried to explain it to you, but I don't know." "Asking the same question will not help you to learn who I am," says Alice, and she gets angry with the caterpillar. She does not want to stay there. She turns back and begins to walk away. When she walks a little, the caterpillar shouts after her, "Hey, don't go! Come here! I will say something very important to you." Alice likes it and turns back there. She looks at the caterpillar. She wonders what the caterpillar will say. "Don't get angry. Be calm," says the caterpillar. "Will you say this? Do you want to tell something else?" says Alice, getting angry. "No, I will not," says the caterpillar. Then he begins to smoke its pipe again. He does not talk to Alice or look at her. A few minutes later, he stops smoking and turns his eyes to Alice. "You said that you changed during the day. I think now you want to change again. You want to be taller," says the caterpillar. "Yes," says Alice. "What size do you want to be?" asks the caterpillar. "I am not at my own size now," says Alice. "I want to be a little taller. I am only 7 centimeters, and it is very small." The caterpillar looks at Alice very angrily. It is very small. And when Alice says she does not want to be small, it gets angry. Alice understands this. She looks at the caterpillar and says, "It's not a bad thing to be small, but it's a very new thing for me." The caterpillar continues smoking its pipe. It stares at Alice and thinks about something at the same time. Then suddenly it moves, gets down of the mushroom, and comes next to Alice. It changes the direction of its looks and says, "One side will make you taller, and the other side will make you shorter." Alice thinks, "One side of what?" She just thinks but does not say it loudly. However, the caterpillar answers that question. "The mushroom." It says this and disappears. It moves away into the forest. Alice looks at the mushroom. She does not understand which side makes her taller and which side makes her shorter. So she first eats a piece from the right side. After she eats, she feels herself strange and becomes smaller and smaller. Then she quickly eats a piece from the left side and becomes taller and taller. She is as tall as the biggest tree in the forest. She is like a snake that stands over its tail. She is as tall as it. Suddenly she hears a voice. "Snake! Snake!" a bird shouts. "No, I am not a snake," says Alice. "Yes, you are," the bird says. "No, I'm not," says Alice. "You are a snake and you want to steal my eggs. I know," says the bird. "No, you are wrong. I am not a snake and I do not want to steal your eggs," says Alice. "Who are you then?" asks the bird. "I am a little girl," answers Alice. "Little girl? Are you a little girl? I didn't see a little girl as tall as you. I know that you want to eat my eggs," the bird shouts. "No, I don't want," says Alice. She gets bored of telling the bird that she does not want to steal and eat its eggs. Then she goes on walking her way. She has got some pieces of mushroom with her. After she eats the mushroom, she is at her normal size again. "Oh, I can't believe it. I am very happy," says Alice. "This is my first plan, and I make it true. I am at my normal size. And now I will make my second plan true. I will find that beautiful garden." Then she begins to look for it in the forest. While looking for the garden, she sees a little house. She wants to visit the house, but the house is too small that she cannot pass the door. She has to eat some piece of mushroom of the right side. So she eats and becomes nearly 30 centimeters. Now she is ready to go inside the house. Chapter 5. The Cheshire Cat, the Hatter, and the March Hare. She just waits near the house. At that moment, a man comes to the house. He has a letter in his hand. It's an interesting man. His body is a human body, but his face is like a fish. He knocks at the door. Another man opens the door. He is interesting too. His face is like a frog. The fishman gives the letter to the frogman and says, "This is an invitation to Queen's cricket party for Duchess." The voice of the fishman is very funny. When Alice hears it, she laughs very much. But then she thinks that the fishman can see her. So she walks back and stands behind a tree. She sees that the fishman leaves there. After he goes, Alice wants to get in the house. She knocks at the door, but nobody opens it. "Oh, there is somebody inside, I am sure. I can hear some voices. I think they don't hear me," says Alice. Then she opens the door and enters. She walks in the house. Then she comes to the kitchen. There are Duchess and the cook in the kitchen. The cook prepares a soup, and there is too much pepper in it. Alice understands it because there is a smell of pepper in the air. The Duchess carries a baby in her arms. The baby cries and screams all the time. Alice and the Duchess look at each other and talk for a few minutes. Then Alice sees a cat. It is the cat of the Duchess. This is a very interesting cat. It has a smile on its face from ear to ear. Alice looks at the cat. She is surprised. "This is a very different cat, I think," says Alice. "There is a big smile on its face." "Yes, it is a Cheshire cat," says the Duchess. "The Cheshire cats have smiles on their faces." "I didn't know that cats could smile," says Alice. "You do not know much," replies the Duchess. Her voice is not friendly. Alice does not like it. She wants to start a new conversation. At that moment, the baby continues to cry. "Well, I think you can carry the baby for some time," says she. Then she gives the baby to Alice. Alice doesn't understand anything. Suddenly, she finds the baby in her arms. The baby screams and cries all the time. "The Queen invites me to her cricket party. I will go there. I go to my room and make some preparations," the Duchess says, and leaves the kitchen. Alice is still in the kitchen with the baby. She looks at the baby carefully. Its face is not normal. It is not like a baby face. It is like a pig face. Its nose is very big for a little baby, and its eyes are very small. The baby cries, but there are no tears in its eyes. How interesting it is. This is the first time I see a baby like this, Alice thinks. Then she goes outside the house with the baby. She begins to walk into the forest. She walks among the trees. Suddenly, the baby begins to make strange noises. Alice does not understand at first. Then she looks at the face of the baby. Suddenly, it changes into a pig. Alice lays it to the ground and looks at it. In a few seconds, the little pig starts to run into the forest. Alice thinks, "I am very happy for the baby. It was not a beautiful baby. Its face was a pig's face. But now it is a good-looking pig." Then she starts to walk into the forest. She walks a little, and then she sees the Cheshire Cat. It is on a tree, and it looks at Alice. It has again a big smile from ear to ear on its face. Alice goes near the Cheshire Cat and says, "Oh, it's very nice for me to see you here, because I don't know the way. Can you tell me the way? Please?" Alice talks in a very polite way. The cat answers, "Okay, but where do you want to go?" "Tell me it first, and then I will show you the way." "It's not very important the way I go," Alice replies. "Then it is not very important where you go," the cat says. "I want to go to a place. It is not important where," Alice says. "Okay, then go on walking on this way, and soon you will arrive at a place." The Cheshire Cat shows her the way. "What kind of people live there?" Alice asks. The Cheshire Cat shows the right direction and says, "If you go this way, you will meet Hatter." Then it shows the left direction and continues to speak. "If you go this way, you will meet March Hare. You can visit Hatter and March Hare. They are mad." "I don't want to visit mad people," says Alice. "There is no other way," says the cat. "Everybody is mad here. You are mad too." "No, I am not," says Alice. "How can you say that I am mad?" "You are mad because you are here," answers the cat. Alice does not understand anything. Then the Cheshire Cat asks another question. "Will you play cricket in the Queen's party?" "Yes, I want it too much, but nobody invited me," answers Alice. "I will be there," says the cat, and it disappears. Alice isn't surprised when the cat disappears. Always strange things happen, she thinks. She just starts to walk. Then the cat appears again and says, "Oh, I forgot to ask something. What about the baby? What happened to it?" "I carried it in my arms and took care of it, but its face was not like a normal baby face. It was different. Suddenly, it began to make strange noises. Then it became a pig. So I put it on the ground, and it ran into the forest," answers Alice. I am not surprised, says the Cheshire Cat, and then it disappears again. Alice looks at the way the Cheshire Cat disappears. She thinks that it will appear again, but it does not come back again. Alice begins to think and make her plans. Oh, I saw hatters before, so the March Hare is more interesting for me. I think I will visit the March Hare. Now we are not in March, so maybe he is not very mad at this time of the year, she says to herself. Suddenly, she looks at the tree and sees that Cheshire Cat appears again. This time Alice is frightened. Oh, why do you appear and disappear very quickly? Can't you go slowly? Alice asks angrily. Well, yes, I can appear and disappear slowly, says the cat. Then it disappears slowly. First, its tail disappears, then its body, then its head, and last, its smile. Alice thinks, well, I always see cats without smiles on their faces, but it is the first time I see a smile without a cat. Then she continues walking. She walks a lot in the forest. At last, she sees a house. She understands that it is the house of the March Hare. But there is a problem. The house is too big for Alice. So she eats a piece of mushroom from the left side and gets taller. What will I do now? The March Hare may be very angry, and it may not be happy to see me. Alice talks to herself. She thinks to change her way and visit the Hatter, but then she does not want to. She stays there, near the house of the March Hare. Chapter 6. The Door in the Tree. The March Hare and the Hatter sit around a table under a tree in front of the house. They drink their tea and eat their bread and butter. And there is a dormouse there, but it sleeps in its chair. Alice comes next to them. She looks at them. She wants to sit, but they shout at Alice. There is no chair, no chair. Alice answers, but there are chairs here. And she sits there. Would you like to have some orange juice? The March Hare asks. Alice looks around the table, but she cannot see any orange juice. But there is no orange juice here. You are right, we have no orange juice, says the March Hare. Then why do you ask me to have orange juice? You are not kind, says Alice. You say I am not kind. Really? You came here and sat at our table, but we didn't invite you. So are you kind? Asks the March Hare. Alice does not say anything. This time the Hatter speaks. Your hair is too long. You should cut it. It's very rude to say things like this, says Alice. The Hatter is surprised that Alice says a sentence like this, but then he asks another question. Why does a bird look like a study desk? Alice enjoys these kind of riddles, and she likes this one too. She smiles and says, I think I know the answer. Really, says the Hatter. What is it? Then you should say your answer. Of course I can say, but it is the same answer with yours. You know it, so it is not necessary to say the answer, says Alice. No, it is not the same, says the March Hare. Listen to it. I like what I have got, and I have got what I like, is not the same thing. The Hatter looks at Alice and says, or, I see what I eat, and I eat what I see, is not the same thing. This time Alice cannot find anything to say. She thinks about the March Hare's words and the Hatter's riddle. Alice tries to understand these things. Nobody talks for a few minutes. Then Hatter asks another question to Alice. What is the date today? Alice thinks a little and answers, 4th of May. Then the Hatter looks at his watch and says, 2 days wrong. Oh, my watch is 2 days slow. It turns to the March Hare and shouts, I tell you that this butter is not good for the watch. Why do you use it? The Hatter is angry with the March Hare. No, it is the best butter for the watch, says the March Hare. Alice looks at the watch. What a strange watch, she says. It shows the days of the week, but it doesn't show the time. It is not necessary for me that it shows the time, says the Hatter. Why? Asks Alice. Do you not want to learn the time? Does your watch show the year? Asks the Hatter again. No, answers Alice. Why not? Asks the Hatter. Because I know the year and it does not change quickly, answers Alice. Yes, you are right, says the Hatter. So I don't need a watch that shows the time. Because I know the time. How do you know it? Asks Alice. She does not understand. It is always 6 o'clock here, says the Hatter. I understand it now, says Alex. It is always tea time here. That's because you always drink tea. Yes, that's right. We always drink tea and we don't have any time to wash the dishes, the Hatter says. That's because there are lots of plates and glasses on the table. When your plates and glasses are dirty, you use the new ones. Because you don't have any time to wash them, says Alice. Yes, certainly, says the Hatter. The March Hare looks at Alice and says, You are talking too much. Now do a nice thing and tell us a story. I cannot tell because I don't know any, says Alice. Then Dormouse can tell one, says the March Hare. Alice looks at the Dormouse. It still sleeps in its chair. Wake up, Dormouse! Wake up and tell a story! We are waiting for you to tell a story, shouts the March Hare. Alice changes the direction of her looks and looks at the Dormouse in a friendly way. Please tell us a story, she says politely. Dormouse wakes up. First, it does not understand anything. The Hatter, the March Hare, and Alice look at it and want it to tell them a story. It sits down on its chair and begins to tell a story. Once upon a time, there are 3 little sisters. Their names are Elsie, Lacey, and Tilly. They live in a very nice house near the river. They are very happy, the Dormouse begins to tell. And what do they eat? Alice asks. She likes eating and drinking too much, so she wants to learn it. What do they eat? Repeats the Dormouse. It is surprised that Alice asks it. It thinks for 2 minutes and answers Alice's question. They eat bonbons. Always? She wants to learn. Yes, always, the Dormouse replies. But they can't always eat bonbons. Then they will be ill, Alice says. The Dormouse thinks for some time again and says, Yes, they are ill. It's not a good story, Alice says again. Why? The March Hare asks. Because Dormouse first says that 3 sisters are very happy, and then it says that they are ill. How can ill people be very happy? I don't understand, Alice asks. If you don't like the story, you can tell another one, the March Hare shouts angrily at Alice. Okay, I will not say anything. Please, Dormouse, go on. Yes, these 3 sisters want to learn drawing. The Dormouse cannot finish its sentence. What do they want to draw? Alice asks. She forgets her promise. The Dormouse again thinks for 2 minutes and then says, They want to draw bonbons. Bonbons? Alice cannot believe. This is nonsense, she shouts. Why do you ask too many questions? The Hatter asks Alice. You promise that you will not say anything when Dormouse tells its story. The March Hare and the Hatter look at Alice in an unfriendly way. But the story is not nice. It cannot be real that three sisters want to draw bonbons. Alice forgets her promises and speaks again. That's enough. Don't ask any questions. If you want to listen, do not speak when Dormouse tells, the March Hare and the Hatter says. Alice does not understand the story. She gets bored and leaves the table. She says, I do not like your tea party or the story. This is not a nice story, and you are not friendly. I will go, and I will not come back again. She walks a little and looks back at the table. Dormouse sleeps again. The March Hare and the Hatter try to wake it up. They pour some tea on it. At that moment, Alice notices there is a door in one of the trees. It is not normal that there are doors in the trees, but always strange things happen today. Now I want to see inside. I will pass the door, she says to herself. She is in. She looks around and remembers. She is in the room with the glass table. Now she has an idea. She quickly takes the golden key from the glass table and unlocks the door of that beautiful and colorful garden. But she is too big to enter the garden. So she decides to eat some pieces of mushroom from the right side, and she gets smaller. Now she is ready to get in. She passes the door and walks into the garden. Chapter 7. Alice in the Cricket Field. When she enters the garden, she sees that there are 3 gardeners. They wait in front of a rose tree. 2 gardeners paint the roses. The other gardener looks around and shouts at them, Be quick, be quick! The queen will be here soon! They look very worried. Alice asks them, Why are you so worried? Is there something wrong? Yes, replies one of the gardeners. The queen likes red roses, but this is a tree of white roses, so we tried to paint them. But the queen will be angry with us. Oh, what will we do? Another gardener shouts, The queen! She is coming! The gardeners lie down on their faces. Alice hears the sound of the footsteps. She turns back and sees a crowd of people. First, she sees 10 soldiers. Their clothes are same with the clothes of 3 gardeners. They carry clubs. Then she sees 10 other soldiers. They have diamonds on themselves. Then she sees the children. They have hearts on themselves. Kings and queens walk after them. Alice notices that the white rabbit is there. It is in a hurry and it does not see Alice. It walks fast. The knave of hearts is after the white rabbit. He carries the crown of the king, and at last the king and queen of hearts walk. Everybody lies down when the king and the queen pass. Alice thinks for a minute. Shall I lie down or not? But she does not lie down. Why should I lie down? Thinks she. The king and the queen walk among the crowd. Suddenly, the queen stops and turns back to the knave of hearts. She shows Alice and asks, Who is she? The knave cannot reply. Then she looks at Alice and asks, Who are you? My name is Alice, Your Majesty. Alice talks in a very polite way. Then she says to herself, I don't have to speak in a polite way. I don't have to be afraid of them. They are only a pack of cards. Then the queen shows the 3 gardeners and asks Alice, Who are they? I don't know, says Alice. How can I know? At that moment, the queen sees the white roses. She does not like white roses. She gets very angry. Off with their heads, shouts she. The soldiers go near the gardeners and take them away. Then the queen turns to Alice and asks, Can you play cricket? Yes, shouts Alice. Then come with us, says the queen. Alice joins the crowd and they begin to walk together. In the crowd, someone says very quietly to Alice, "It's a very nice day." Alice turns her head and looks. It is the White Rabbit. "Yes, it is very nice," says Alice. "I am very happy to see you again. But where is the Duchess?" Alice looks around and says to the White Rabbit, "I cannot see her." "Shh," says the rabbit. "Don't speak loudly. The Queen will hear. She is in the prison." "In the prison?" Alice repeats the words of the White Rabbit. She is surprised. Yes, she is in prison. The Queen put her there. She waits for execution. "Oh, execution!" shouts Alice. "But why?" "Shh! The Queen will hear us," says the White Rabbit again. When they talk, the Queen shouts, "We start! Everybody, get your places!" The game begins. This game is very strange, just like everything. It is very difficult to play it for Alice, because it is not a normal cricket game. The balls are hedgehogs, the mallets are flamingos, and the soldiers stand both on their hands and on their feet, so they make hoops for the balls. Alice wants to start the game. She holds her flamingo. At first, she is not able to hold it, but then she learns. When she wants to hit a ball, her flamingo moves. It turns its head left and right. Alice cannot hit the ball. Then she makes the flamingo ready to hit a ball. But this time the hedgehog moves. It is tired of waiting in the same place and walks around the cricket field. Alice cannot hit it. And when the flamingo and hedgehog are ready at the same time, there is no hoop, because everybody plays at the same moment, and the soldiers always walk away and make hoops for the other players. Alice does not like the game. It is very difficult for her to play. It is not only Alice that finds the game difficult. The other players always argue with each other, because there are not enough hedgehogs. So they hit the same hedgehogs, and the hedgehogs run. Nobody agrees with the others. The Queen gets very angry. She often shouts, "Off with his head," or "Off with her head." Alice feels very bad when the Queen shouts, "Off with his head," or "Off with her head." She thinks, "Oh, I am sure the Queen will get angry with me too. What will I do then? What will they do to me? They cut the heads of the players. Soon there will be nobody alive." She begins to think. She tries to find a way to escape from the cricket field. Alice feels very unhappy. Suddenly, she notices something. She looks at carefully and understands that the Cheshire Cat appears again. Suddenly, she feels happy again. "Oh, this is the Cheshire Cat. Now there is somebody to talk to." "How are you?" asks the Cheshire Cat. "Do you enjoy the game?" Alice does not answer its question, because the cat appears very slowly, and its ears don't appear. She waits for a few minutes. Its head appears, but its body does not. Then Alice answers its question. "No, I don't like the game. Everybody argues with each other, and they always shout. Flamingos turn their heads, and that's because I cannot hit the hedgehogs. Or when I am ready to hit a hedgehog, it walks away. And it is impossible to find the hoops in their places. They always move. This is very bad. I don't want to play this game." "What about the Queen? Do you like her?" the Cheshire Cat asks. "No, I don't. She is very—" Alice does not finish her sentence because she sees the Queen. Then she goes on talking. "Professional. I think she will win the game. She plays very well." The Queen hears these words and she likes them. Then the King comes next to Alice. He hears that Alice talks to somebody. "Who are you talking to?" asks he. He sees the head of the cat, and he becomes surprised. "Oh, it's my friend. It's a Cheshire cat," says Alice. The king looks at the cat carefully and says, "I don't like it very much, but it may kiss my hand." "I don't want to," says the Cheshire cat. "How can you talk to me like this?" "Oh, wait," says the king and calls his wife. "Oh, my dear, here is a cat. It is very rude to me and I don't like it. It makes me very angry." The queen does not look around and says, "Off with his head." The king looks at the cat and says, "I will call the executioner." Alice feels very bad. She walks away and looks around the cricket field. There are some flamingos at the corners of the field. They try to fly away. The hedgehogs run from one side to the other. The players still argue with each other. She gets bored and goes back near the king and the Cheshire cat. The executioner arrives, and there is an argument among the executioner, the king, and the queen. The executioner says, "I cannot cut off a head of something that does not have a body." The king says, "Of course you can cut it off. It is not necessary to have a body. If it has a head, you can cut it off." And the queen says, "Decide quickly. If you cannot decide at once, I will cut everybody's head off." Everybody is frightened and does not like that idea. "What's your idea?" they ask Alice. "Please think of something or we will all die." Alice thinks quickly and says, "This is the cat of the Duchess. You should ask her." The queen shouts at the executioner, "The Duchess is in prison. Go, take her out of the prison and bring her here." The executioner runs to the prison. At that moment, the Cheshire cat begins to disappear again. It disappears very slowly. When the executioner comes back with the Duchess, the cat is not there. The king gets very angry. He looks for the cat but cannot find it anywhere. Chapter 8. Alice meets the Gryphon and the Mock Turtle. The Duchess puts her arm around Alice and says, "It is very nice to see you again." Alice is very frightened at first, but then she understands that the Duchess does not want to do bad things. They walk together and talk, but then the Queen comes and takes Alice to the cricket field. Everybody plays cricket, and the Queen watches them. She always shouts, "Off with his head," or "Off with her head." Soon there are no hoops on the cricket field, because the hoops are the soldiers at the same time. And they take the players into the prison, because the Queen wants it. Finally, there are only 3 players on the field: the King, the Queen, and Alice. The Queen comes next to Alice and asks, "Did you see the Mock Turtle?" "No," says Alice. "I don't know what a Mock Turtle is." "Okay, then come with me and see it," the Queen says to Alice. They walk together towards the sea, and they see the Gryphon there. It sleeps under the sun, but wakes up when the Queen and Alice come. The Queen says to it, "Take this girl to the Mock Turtle. I have to go back and see some executions." Then she leaves. After the Queen goes, the Gryphon laughs and says, "How funny it is!" "What's funny?" Alice wants to learn. "They do not kill anybody. They are just words." "Oh, really? I am very happy now. I was worried about those people." Soon the Mock Turtle came. They all sit near the sea and talk. The Mock Turtle first tells about its school to Alice. It talks about its lessons and friends. Alice talks about her school too. Then the Mock Turtle and the Gryphon show some dance figures to Alice. They dance very nicely. Alice likes it. After that, the Mock Turtle sings a song. It's a song about turtles. Alice enjoys it very much. The Mock Turtle has got lots of things to tell. But they all hear a voice. "Everybody, come here! The trial starts! It starts now!" The Gryphon catches Alice by her hand, and they run together. Chapter 9. The Trial Begins. The King and the Queen of Hearts sit on their chairs. Soon after, Alice and the Gryphon come. It is very crowded. There are too many birds and animals, and the pack of cards are also there. There are soldiers around the Knave of Hearts, and the White Rabbit stands near the King with a trumpet on his hand. Alice sees a table in the middle of the room. There are lots of tarts on it. She thinks, "Oh, they look beautiful. I like tarts." She thinks so because she is very hungry. The Gryphon and Alice talk a bit. Alice looks at the jury. There are some animals and some birds in the jury. She finds it strange. "I did not see a jury like this before," she says. The animals and the birds write down something on their papers all the time. Then Alice asks Gryphon, "What do they write about?" The Gryphon can't answer the question because the White Rabbit shouts, "Be quiet, be quiet! The trial of the Knave of Hearts will begin now." The King looks at the White Rabbit and says to it, "Okay, now you can read the paper." The White Rabbit takes a long piece of paper and begins to read. "The Queen of Hearts, she made some tarts, all on a summer day. The Knave of Hearts, he stole those tarts and took them all away." "Very nice," the King says to White Rabbit. Then he smiles and continues to speak. "Now I want to listen to the witnesses. Call the first witness." The White Rabbit hits his trumpet for 3 times and calls the first witness. It is the Hatter. It comes in the room. There is a cup of tea in its one hand, and it carries some bread and butter in the other hand. "I am very sorry, Majesty. I bring these with me, because I did not finish them. I was in the middle of my tea when the trial began," says the Hatter. "You should finish them before the trial," says the King. He is angry and talks to the Hatter again. "Take off your hat." "It is not my hat," answers the Hatter. "Did you steal it?" shouts the King. "Oh, write it down. He stole the hat," says to the jury. "No, Your Majesty, I don't have a hat. I don't steal hats. I sell them. I am a hatter," says the Hatter. "Then show your evidence, or I will cut your head off. Tell me quickly your evidence," the King shouts. The Hatter is very frightened. "I am a poor hatter, Your Majesty," he says to the King. The crowd of people watch the Hatter and the King. Alice watches too. She feels very strange. First, she cannot understand what happens, but then she realizes that she grows. She sits next to Dormouse. Dormouse says to Alice, "Hey, do not push me or I will fall from my chair." "Oh, what can I do? Can't you see? I'm growing. I'm getting taller and bigger," answers Alice. "You should not do it here. You cannot grow in the trial," says Dormouse, and it becomes very angry. It changes its chair and sits on another one. The Hatter still stands in front of the King and the Queen of Hearts. It tells its evidence, but nobody can understand its words. The Hatter is very afraid. Because the King and the Queen of Hearts look at the executioner, and it realizes this. It cries, "No, Your Majesty, no! I am a poor hatter," it says. "You are a very poor speaker," says the king. Then he turns to the White Rabbit and speaks. "Call the next witness." The White Rabbit calls the next witness. The next witness is the Duchess' cook. Alice understands that this witness is the cook. Because she carries a pepper box in her hand, it smells of pepper in the room. The king asks her, "What is your evidence?" She answers, "I don't have any evidence," in an angry voice. The king does not say anything to the cook. The White Rabbit says to the king, "I think we should call the next witness." "Okay," says the king, "then call the next witness." The White Rabbit takes its long piece of paper and looks there. It looks for a name, and then it shouts. Alice is surprised when she hears the name. Chapter 10. The End of Alice's Adventures. "Alice!" the White Rabbit shouts. "Here!" says Alice and stands up. She grows very much. She is very, very tall. "Tell me," the king says, "what do you know about these tarts?" "Nothing," says Alice. "Nothing?" repeats the king. He gets very angry. Then he writes something down to his paper. He turns to Alice and says, "You are more than 1 mile, and nobody more than 1 mile can join the trials. You must leave here." "No, you are not right. I am not 1 mile," says Alice. "Yes, you are. You are very tall," shouts the king. "No, I don't want to leave. I want to hear the evidence." "There is no other evidence. It is over. Now, jury will—" The king cannot finish his sentence. The White Rabbit whispers to the ear of the king, "Your Majesty, we have found a paper. I think it is an evidence." "What is it?" the king asks. "I don't know, but I think it's a letter," says the White Rabbit. "Who writes it?" the king wants to learn. "There is no name on it, but I think the Knave of Hearts wrote it." "No, Your Majesty, I did not write it. Look, it is not my handwriting," says the Knave of Hearts. "Maybe you've changed your handwriting," says the king. "No, Your Majesty, believe me, I didn't write it." "Okay, then, read the letter," the king shouts at the White Rabbit. "All of it?" the White Rabbit asks. "Yes, all of it, from the beginning to the end. Read it," the king answers. Then the White Rabbit begins to read. Everybody listens to it very carefully. "They tell me you are with her, and talk about me to him. She thinks I am a gardener, but says I cannot swim. He tells me that I go. We know that this is true. If she decides to hurry on, what will they do to you? I give her 1, they give him 2. You give us 3 or more, they all return from him to you. But they are mine before." "I think this is the most important part of the evidence," says the king. "This is the end of the trial. Now the jury will—" But Alice shouts, and the king cannot complete his sentence. He cannot say the things that he wants to say. "If someone can tell me what this letter is about," Alice begins to talk. She shouts and gets very angry. She is not afraid of the king and the queen of hearts, because she is very tall. "I will give him 6 pence. There is no meaning in this letter." "No meaning?" repeat the animals in jury and write it down. "No meaning?" repeats the king and begins to think about the letter. He reads it again and repeats a sentence loudly. "But says I cannot swim." And he turns to the Knave of Hearts. "You cannot swim, can you?" asks he. The Knave of Hearts answers, "Can I? No, how can I swim?" Everybody knows that the Knave of Hearts cannot swim, because he is a card. He is made of paper. Then the king goes on repeating the sentences from the letter. "I give her 1, they give him 2. Then he speaks. Oh, I understand what he does with the tarts. But, says Alice, and repeats a sentence from the letter too, they all return from him to you. Then she looks at the king and says, The tarts are here. The king talks. Now the jury will decide, and they will tell us the thief. No, shouts the queen. First, off with his head, and then the jury can decide. Is it a joke? Asked Alice loudly. The jury must decide first, and then. The queen gets very angry with Alice. She shouts at Alice, Be quiet! No, I will not, Alice answers. She is angry too. Off with her head, she shouts. It is not important what you say. You cannot do anything to me. You are only a pack of cards, she says loudly. When Alice finishes her sentence, the pack of cards fly into the sky, and then they begin to fall on Alice's face. She screams, screams, and screams. Then Alice wakes up. She sleeps under a tree, and the leaves of the tree fall on Alice's face. Her sister still reads her book. When she hears Alice's scream, she comes near Alice. Oh, Alice, you slept for an hour. Wake up. Oh, really? Says Alice. I have had a very strange dream. Then Alice tells all her dreams and adventures about Wonderland.